going up and down the paddock, not least the Red Bull Aston Martin controversy. It is quickly becoming a controversy, something else that Red Bull will have in the back of their mind somewhere, but wanting to get a bit of distance on it as it continues its course throughout the weekend.
Yes, the Red Bull Aston Martin story. If you've not been with us so far, if you're just tuning in, that is the Red Bull. You'll see the Aston Martin in a few moments, an upgraded Aston Martin. They don't really want to call it a B car, but it is very, very different to the car we've seen for the first 5 rounds. And it bears a few uncanny similarities with the Red Bull itself. Now, the FIA have looked into this and have said, yes, there are similarities, but we are absolutely satisfied that everything that is on that Aston Martin car has been designed at their Silverstone base, and the concept has been shown. They've shown their work in the margins, like any diligent student would do, and the FIA are happy with those margins and it being Aston Martin's work. But that might not be the end of the story, because what the FIA can't prove at the moment is where those margins might have originated from. They might be on a piece of paper or a design computer at Silverstone, but is there a possibility that those margins were created somewhere nearer Milton Keynes than they were at Silverstone? And I think Red Bull's stance on this is they fear those margins might have emanated from the Red Bull campus. But that's how the story stands at the moment. There's no official protest. Red Bull have put out a statement, which we read in FP1, and the FIA haven't said whether they're going to look into it any further. For the time being, they are very satisfied. There is the Aston Martin itself, with Sebastian Vettel driving it, very satisfied with everything Aston Martin have shown them and have done to create this car, which they hope that Aston Martin might just reignite their season a little bit. Damon Hill, we are not averse to a bit of skullduggery in Formula One. We've seen it many times in the past. I dare say we'll see it many times in the future. This is another one of those sort of stories, isn't it?
Well, you've certainly sent one flying there, I think, David. I mean, everyone at home are going to hear their brains, cogs are turning in their heads. What does this really mean? You know, what are you suggesting? That
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm saying what's happened so far.
That car is effectively a copy of the Red Bull. If so, how is it a copy of the Red Bull? If it is,
that's the key question. And Dave, you're absolutely right, because that's where the argument is, isn't it? You know, Aston have said that they've come up with the design themselves and done it in their own factory, and the FIA have said, okay, you've given us enough evidence that we believe you, and that's fine. Red Bull don't seem to agree with that opinion, but to Crofty's point, nothing is being lodged officially in terms of protest. There seems to be a lot of ranting in the paddock, including, I mean, I had one person telling me today that one of the Red Bull concerns is that, I think I'm right in saying, Mercedes rent out their wind tunnel, don't they, to Aston Martin? Aston Martin right. Use it. So then they go into, well, they're using their wind tunnel, so, you know, they could pass on information. So fundamentally, the rules are that you don't pass on information. You know, you use different laptops, different computers, different servers when you rent it.
Maybe Red Bull left something behind.
Left a drawing behind. This is it. So, but this is F1, isn't it?
Scribble.
It all just spirals.
On the toilet door.
You done?
No. We're not going there, David, on that one. A little unsteady. Sebastian Vettel under braking into the chicane on his first flying lap of the session. We talked to Otmar Safnauer in testing about this and said, you know, when a team is sharing a wind tunnel with another team, it stands to reason that people might suspect that information could get seen by the opposite party. He went, no, that's not true at all. You know, Mercedes, their engineers pack everything up, they leave the wind tunnel, and then we move in when we rent it, and nothing gets transferred over.
I like how you've mentioned Otmar there, because I would love to get his opinion on this. Bearing in mind, he was obviously at Racing Point when the whole controversy about them building a copycat Mercedes came out, and he defended that pretty strongly. Now he's on the other side of the fence. You know, I'd love to know what his view on it is.
Well, we might try and ask him later then.
And the truth is, guys, you know, we know that no one lives in a silo of their own kind of world completely in this sport. Everyone's looking with great detail at everything else that is being done by all the other teams. They have to know what everyone is up to. They virtually know.
Oh, now this is Charles Leclerc. Is he making a little bit of space for himself? Is he allowing the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton to fly past? Yes, he is. Before he then goes on his way. Our championship leader, Charles Leclerc, with 104 points on the board so far. who started on the front row at every race in 2022, and if he does so this weekend, equals his best ever run of 6 consecutive front rows. He's going for a flying lap here, I think, Karun Chandok. Take us through it.
So he's heading down the straight. Hamilton now getting out of his way very nicely into turn 1. You can see from that camera angle in the middle there of the rear wing had the DRS open. Look at the graphic of the throttle, a little bit of a lift at turn 3. So these bigger, heavier cars with a reduction in downforce aren't comfortably flat through that corner. Charles a little bit wide there. He's got to be careful not to go too wide at 4 or you end up on the dust. Turn 5, we see lots of different lines. He uses the tighter one, getting up to the white line on the inside. He's got his teammate Carlos Sainz up ahead just in the distance, who will hopefully move over to the right. Yes, nicely done. Watch turn 9. A little bit of a break even, so it's not just a lift, it's actually a little bit of a break for Charles. Let's bear in mind, he is still on the medium tyre. I know he's going fast as anyone, a little bit of rear instability, had to saw at the wheel, and this is going to be common in the last sector of the lap. Watch his hands here as the tyre temperatures start to go through the roof, and he struggles for rear grip. Bit more traffic, I think, again, some rear locking just as he tried to get in to the chicane. Put him wide, had to really tighten up the second part. I suspect he's lost some time in the second part of that chicane, and indeed he has lost time to Verstappen in the last sector.
So as he crosses the line, Charles Leclerc finds himself 6/100ths of a second behind Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz right in the middle. Sainz, one of 2 Spanish drivers in this race, and isn't it great to see that with competition at the front, at the top end of the championship with Fernando Alonso, this man here, I think the unluckiest driver in Formula 1 so far this season, should have way more points on the board than just the 2, and is capable of a good result this weekend. Carlos Sainz, as you were saying earlier in FP1, Damon, very capable of maybe even notching up his first ever win. Because there's competition, the crowds have flocked back to the Circuit de Catalunya, and we've not really seen these sort of scenes since 2006, really, 2007, or maybe when Fernando Alonso won his last race here in 2013.
Well, they've come because they've got hope in their hearts, haven't they? They've got genuine chance of seeing a Spaniard win the Spanish Grand Prix, as we saw. That's properly off, isn't it, Fernando?
He just went in there too deep. He was wide of the apex. And as soon as you're outside the camber, you're outside where the rubber is, you can see the dark lines of rubber, there's just no grip, and he understeered straight through the gravel. So that'll probably be that set of tyres done and dusted.
Yeah, I noticed with Charles, they seem a little bit more pumped up. I thought Charles was going in too deep. That's why he was missing the apexes and having to catch the car under braking. So just pushing, they're pushing just a bit harder now. So you will see this.
Lando Norris going off the track. By the way, Lando Norris running the new upgraded McLaren today. Daniel Ricciardo running the older spec McLaren, whilst the team basically back-to-back to see and evaluate how the upgrades have fared. They won't make any changes, so I'm told by James Key, their technical director, until tomorrow. Let's head to the side of the track. Inside of turn 13, I am told, Martin Brundle is watching the cars. Turn 9. Sorry, Martin. Yeah, 4 corners before 13. Come on in.
Story of my career, Crofty. Always 4 corners too late. So, yes, we are on the inside of turn 9. It's a 160-mile-an-hour right-hander, up a hill, unsighted, 90-degree corner. You're staring pretty much at the sky as you come up the hill. DRS, drag reduction system, detection zone on the way in. And I'll show you where it is immediately on the way out of the corner. And as the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll comes through there, they're unbelievably stable. Fernando Alonso, Alpine, local hero as well. Of course, the cars, the only car I've seen move through here at the moment was Lewis's Mercedes, actually, as George Russell slowly goes past us. And there's a bit of a crosswind right in the middle of the corner. And we'll see as somebody comes through here fast. There's a white line, a Sainz in the front. Watch his rear wing. They come off the corner and they're moving around on the curb, sparking and dust and everything flying from underneath. And they immediately open the rear wing on that white line you can see crossing the track. So they've barely got it all sorted out through the corner. And there goes the rear wing with the back end of the Aston Martin moving around a lot as it comes off the curb there. Now, I don't mind admitting, this is a corner that used to frighten me when I was a Formula 1 driver, because it was pretty easy to get it wrong. And if you've watched F1 for a while, you'll never forget Heikki Kovalainen's crash in the McLaren. Straight on there into the barriers. And if you get it, there's very little runoff here. It'll be some fairly sun-baked gravel as well, for good measure. Yeah, they're carrying lots of speed. It looks relatively easy to me until something goes wrong. Back to you, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. While you were watching the cars from the inside of turn 9, this happened down into turn 1. Valtteri Bottas, who's been on the podium here in each of the last 4 years, pulling off to the side of the track. Now, has he made a mistake? No. Have a listen to this.
Something's broke.
Now, what that is, I don't know, but there's a call going into Ted Kravitz to pop down to Alfa Romeo to see what the problem is. Robert Kubica doesn't look too happy with the situation, and I'm not surprised either. Valtteri Bottas, this is the sound down the main straight. See if we can hear anything.
He's able to downshift, isn't he? But did it not sound like he could still go down the gears there?
You can see the there's a puff of smoke as well.
Yeah.
And it sounded a little bit mechanical, and then all the electrics went on the dash as well.
Yeah.
So
we've got a virtual safety car out on track.
Well, with a virtual safety car out on the track, seems like a very good time to bring in our special guest for the afternoon. Well, we have Champ in the commentary box with us, Damon Hill, and we have Double Champ with us, F2 champion, reigning Formula E champion, and getting his first taste of a Formula 1 weekend. Nick De Vries, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Although Damon is the real champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't count.
you see, David, you know, they respect me. Like they know what it means. They're after the same thing, and maybe we're in the presence of a future world champion here.
Well, absolutely. Listen, we respect you as well. Even when Jenson Butler's with us, we still call you Champ. Remember that.
How does that work? Anyway, it's great. I love it.
It is appreciated that it lasts that long.
Yeah, no, it keeps going. It never goes away.
Never
goes away.
That's Carlos Sainz out on the track, getting a little too close.
So dangerous, this guy. In the middle of the line.
Oh, that was a bit close for comfort, wasn't it?
Yeah, not a happy man. Not a happy man there. Nick De Vries with us. How many people can you fit into a commentary box? You should see the entourage.
It is nice and cozy here.
See the entourage that
It's
he's
the bodyguards he
well.
brought. That's the problem.
Pardon?
Yeah, all these big bodyguards that you brought. That's the problem.
The big
commentary
ones.
box
Look at
flooded with these huge, burly bodyguards you've arrived with.
So tell me, how was it out on the track today, driving a Formula 1 car for Williams?
It was absolutely amazing. Obviously, I will admit that I was a bit nervous today. More nervous than I would be for a free practice session. We put quite a lot of time into preparing this opportunity. So yeah, I was very grateful, and you know, every young driver kind of dreams to become a Formula 1 driver, and of course I am not in Formula 1 today, but getting the opportunity to get yourself out there during a Grand Prix weekend is something special and unique, hence why I received 20 pictures of my dad last night of his road map, and he had flown to my home in Monaco, and he had stolen my car yesterday morning to drive to Barcelona because there were no flights.
Did he make it in time?
He did. He was on the grandstand opposite of the box, and so was my mum. So
Oh, that's great.
it was great. And I will admit, I personally didn't really realize that, but obviously they lived the journey with me, and it was nice to see that they cared and they wanted to be here to witness that kind of first occasion.
I mean, you were also secretly delighted because free practice was at 2 in the afternoon. I mean, I saw Nick last weekend, and the first free practice session was at 7:15 in the morning in Formula E, isn't it? So this is much more civilized.
I was impressed to see you there. I mean, you make the necessary hours.
Committed, you know, what can I say? But listen, how did it go? Because we saw you go through a program of different tires. We saw you, they let you have a run on the soft tire as well. And how did it all go?
The C1 was very difficult. It was extremely, well, everyone really tried to...
We're going to use hard, medium and soft here.
Okay, so the hard compound was very tough, hence why I think everyone tried to get rid of it, because it was very difficult to get into the window, but it also gave me an opportunity to do kind of multiple laps at the beginning, which was quite useful. And then obviously we managed to do a bit of a short run on the qualifying tire. We were very early out, and I wasn't entirely satisfied with my track position, catching Valtteri at the end of the lap.
We heard you on the radio.
Yeah, but you know, that's just the competitiveness inside me. But generally, I think we did a decent job, and I'm very pleased with how it went.
And now you can relate to what's going on. We're watching the Ferrari. Is there anything you can tell us about your experience having been on the circuit? What are they struggling with here? Is it tyre temperature? There's no wind anyway. It's just hot, isn't it?
It's picked up a bit this afternoon, though, Damon. The wind speed has picked up. There's a bit
Which
of
it often
a
does here,
crosswind,
doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. There's a bit of a tailwind midway through turn 3, entry 4, and then entry 9 and 12. So hence also in F2 we saw people being catched out in the entry of 4. But obviously we have our own kind of difficulties and challenges. What was encouraging is that the correlation between the simulator was very much on point. So the same kind of characteristics we struggled with in the deal were also the case in reality. So at least it gives a starting point and a reference.
Now, your journey into Formula One, you're obviously in the commentary box because you know that it's the next step in any graduate's move into Formula One. George Russell.
The commentary box.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
George
it is.
Russell.
It's true.
Seriously, George Russell, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Oscar Piastri, earlier this season, all been in our commentary box, and they know that the minute you step foot in this commentary box, that's it. Your path to F1 is absolutely assured. So, is that this season or next season? When are you going to join Williams?
Honestly, I don't know. Recently, we've been very occupied with Formula E and getting ready for this opportunity, and that was where all my thought and focus was. Hence why I was a little bit nervous, but let's see what will happen in the future. I think time will tell, but for the moment I enjoyed the experience.
Well, I was going to say, you must have done. You're a 10th ahead of the other car. That's always a good start, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter whether it's practice. You know, Damon, you know as much as me. You come in the pits and your eyes go to the timesheets. You look for your time, you look for the other car, don't you? It's every racing driver in the world who doesn't do that is lying.
Yeah, we're just addicted.
So, you know, it's a good start for you, surely. You must be happy with.
Oh yes,
with how that's
I mean
gone.
it's normal. We're living in a competitive world, and obviously in our industry we're always compared to our first kind of competitor, which is our teammate, because we're supposed to have equal equipment. But despite that, I think there was still more to come from my side, and that's what kind of leaves with me. And of course that was wide. That was wide.
Yeah, did you get out that far?
No. No. I didn't dare to.
But I think now the tailwind, it's a crosswind as they turn up over the brow. We often get this crosswind in the afternoons in Barcelona and up at turn 9. So it has definitely started to affect the cars up there.
It's registering 1.8 kilometers an hour. Is that
meters per second?
Oh, meters per second. Okay. Well, what is that in English?
The stiff breeze, David, at the top of the hill is what that is. And look, Formula E obviously for this season, but if Formula One did come knocking, would Formula E prevent you from getting into Formula One, or is it something that you can say, look, I've done Formula E, I'm here, I'm happy for the time being, but this is my ambition, nothing's going to stand in my way?
Well, as I said, you know, I would lie if I said that Formula One wasn't my dream and goal. So, you know, Formula One always remains the pinnacle of our sport. But at the same time, I'm very, you know, happy with what I'm doing in Formula E in combination with WEC. So, yeah, time will tell, really. I think for me, the most important is to do my job on track, because ultimately that's the only way to earn your opportunities, and then we'll see.
Excellent. Stay with us for 2 seconds there, as Lando Norris, we see from the rear, going wide and kicking up the gravel. Max Verstappen, by 4/100ths of a second from Carlos Sainz, is the fastest driver. Charles Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell completing the top 5. Hamilton half a second off the pace of Verstappen, but these are medium tyre runs as opposed to the soft tyre runs that we're going to see. In terms of tyre wear, it's been a 2-stop race this for the last, I think, winners won the last 3 years by 2-stopping here. Are we going to see something similar, do you think, come Sunday, or is a 1-stop possible? How are the tyres holding up?
Yeah, the left front is obviously always suffering here a lot, but the high ambient temperatures and track temps are pushing the surface temperatures very high. So I think there will be a lot of management to do. So likely a two-stop will be favourable.
And when's your next outing in the Williams car? Do you know yet?
I don't know. No.
He does. He's grinning at me as he says it. Because you get one more? potentially, or does it have to be another driver?
Every team, no, that not necessarily, but every team needs to run a rookie into F1.
Could be in the Merc.
Yeah, you could, couldn't you?
There you go. You get 2 sessions in the Merc, 2 sessions in the Williams. You're on a roll.
The driver's not limited the number of goes he gets, is he?
No.
It's the team has to run 2.
Yeah, one on each
people.
car.
Yeah.
I mean, what really Nick's going to do this afternoon is bang on everybody's door.
Nick, thanks ever so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
But it's great that you came up to see us, mate.
Good luck.
Well done
Thank you.
for today. Nick De Vries with us. We're going to go straight down to the Ferrari pit wall. And Mattia Binotto, the team principal, is with us. Mattia, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us an overview on how the day has gone for you so far?
Hi all, as first. Good afternoon. The day so far very tight, very challenging, very intense, very busy. Obviously we are bringing some updates here in Barcelona, and when you do so, a lot of testing, a lot of data to be collected, analyzed, and try obviously to optimize the package for the weekend. And Barcelona is always a very difficult challenge. You've got the last sectors where you need the rear, but the initial sectors where you need as well the front, so the balance is always tight. But so far interesting and encouraging, I would say.
Is this the sort of weekend with many teams bringing big update packages? Is this a weekend that sets then a trend for quite a few more weekends to come? What happens in Barcelona will stay that pecking order for a while?
Would say that at least now it's 6 races in the championship, and after 6 races I think these new cars, we all start learning them and using them to the maximum potential, so we can certainly start assessing relative competitiveness between teams, and on top of that, as you said, the first upgrade. So I think in that respect it will be an important weekend to understand the level of competitiveness of our teams and ourselves, and maybe it will not set obviously for the rest of the season, but certainly for the next races.
And it's been a brilliant start to the season. You lead both championships, but how nervously are you looking over your shoulder at what Red Bull are doing, and how much more of a threat are they now than compared to the start of the year?
Not nervous. I think we are enjoying the fight. We are enjoying being there after so difficult years, the last one. So at the end, it's great for us to be in the lead of the championship. It's great for us at the moment to still being there and battling on the track. Not nervous, because I think if I look as well at the trend, if I look at the last race, it's true they won, but we locked the front row in the quali, showing that the potential is still there. So I'm not nervous. I know they are very strong in developing, so I will never be shy on that. They are very strong, but I think we can do well as well, and we are focused on ourselves and obviously concentrating on this weekend.
Mattia, thank you so much. The Ferrari Managing Director, Team Principal, with us this weekend on the pit wall. We'll let you get back to business. Sergio Perez has just put in a soft tyre run. Sebastian Vettel right up there in the Aston Martin. We're on board now with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Verstappen on a better lap than Perez. 3/10 up in the first 2 sectors. Vettel in the Aston being ahead of Perez's Red Bull. That won't help the Red Bull conversations or mood, will it? That they're behind one of the upgraded Astons, as Verstappen just smashes that time to do a 20.0. Still slower, by the way, than what we saw from Charles Leclerc in the first free practice session by a couple of tenths.
Yeah, 1:19.8 was the best time this morning. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. We had Nick De Vries up with us, and we were talking to Mattia Binotto, so I wasn't focusing too much on Sebastian Vettel's run, but round about 7 tenths off in the Aston Martin. It's an improvement, Damon. But
yeah, he's on the soft tyre, isn't he?
But you wouldn't say that's an improvement that's going to see Aston Martin challenging for pole come tomorrow.
No, but it's.
I think they'd be happy with just getting in the top 5. I mean, that'd be a massive improvement.
I was going to say, that might take them to the front of the midfield battle, I feel.
True.
You know, that could take them straight into McLaren Alpine territory, which they haven't really been on pure pace. So I think if they're 7 tenths off pole around this circuit, which is a very, very tough
that's a huge step.
Circuit for cars, that's a huge step. Carlos Sainz now, we're going to start to see the Ferraris do their qualifying simulation. So let's stick with Carlos Sainz as he goes around the final sector, gently driving around, trying not to take any life out of his soft tyres.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the scene in qualifying, isn't it? Tiptoe through, and then come out of this chicane and hope that the tyres are in that working window, because if they're not, you've got you've got a huge main straight here where the tyres can cool down a bit, and you've got to trust as you barrel into turn one that you've got the grip and the car's going to stick.
Yeah, that's right. So DRS wide open as he drops down the hill. Damon, you're waving your arms.
Well, I wasn't completely waving my arms. I was just shrugging my shoulders. I was trying to... You mentioned something about how you trust the grip is going to be there, David. And that's always a fascinating question. How do you know how hard to push on a new set of tyres? And that's the mystery of being a racing driver. You kind of just get a sense for what's there.
So he's nearly 2/10 down in the first sector, but that could be just Carlos trying to manage how much life he takes out of the rear tires. Throughout this weekend, you'll often see drivers who are fastest in sector 1 not being the fastest in sector 3. It's a balancing act across the lap. Up through turn 9 now. Brilliant high speed commitment, using plenty of curb but not too much on the way out. The second sector time comes up, and he is quicker than Max Verstappen now. So has Carlos got enough grip as we get towards turn 12? Watch his hands. This is a great driver's eye view as he tries to put the power down. Really good traction there into the final part. This fiddly chicane where you have to underdrive. Don't get greedy on the way in. Uses the curbs nicely. And now put the 1,000 horsepower of Ferrari power down to the line. And he does go quickest by 16 thousandths, Crofty.
Interesting there, the trait of the Ferrari being on top of the Red Bull in the slower corners throughout this season might just have carried through during the course of that lap. Yes, he aced the middle sector, but the final sector was significantly quicker, 27.6 for Carlos Sainz, as Charles Leclerc now leaves the garage before his flying lap in a few moments' time. So Sainz from Verstappen, from Vettel, from Perez, Leclerc and Stroll, who will be on a flying lap in a moment, and Stroll might be in trouble with the stewards. We shall see. They've noted an incident between himself and Yuki Tsunoda. The stewards are also looking at the Sainz and Alex Albon potential impeding as well. They'll do that after the session. No further investigation on Lando Norris, Mick Schumacher potential impeding, and they have issued reprimands, by the way, to Fernando Alonso and to Yuri Vips from FP1 this morning. That has just come through from the FIA. So Yuri Vips, welcome to Formula One and Formula One practice, and you get your first reprimand of the season for impeding out on the track.
The graphic on screen here showing us turn 4, the right-hander, and pretty clear from the purple line being above the green line that Max Verstappen is carrying much more speed into the corner. As you see the speed trace dropping downwards, that just shows he's going in deeper on the brakes, bit more speed, and he's gaining a 1/10.5 on Sebastian Vettel.
There's Charles Leclerc.
Right, this is a big lap here, Crofty.
Well, Ferrari will want to continue their superiority. They will want to show that they've got what it takes to beat the Red Bull, and I see a fascinating battle between Ferrari and Red Bull this weekend. I really do.
I'm just looking at the flags on top of the grandstands outside, and it's the wind has picked up. You know, Damon mentioned before, it's 1.8 meter per second. It's nearly doubled now, and this is the thing around here. It's not like you get the same wind all the time. It's gusting. So Charles Leclerc is going to have a stronger headwind into turn 1 and a stronger crosswind at turn 9.
And he's heading down to turn 1 now, so turn your audio up and let's ride with Charles Leclerc. Off mic in the commentary box, Damon Hill just said, good lap this. It's not champ for nothing. He knew what was coming there. Charles Leclerc goes 0.3 faster than Carlos Sainz with a 1:19.6, and that's a couple of tenths quicker than he managed in the morning session too. It's Leclerc on top from Sainz, Ferrari 1 and 2. So Damon Hill, what made you shout "good lap" this? Were you looking at the timing screen or the track?
It was the way he came out of the chicane. It was the last bit of the lap, and he just looked like he was able to balance it on the edge, you know, right to the very edge of what was available on the circuit, and also on the. He didn't look twitchy as well. He didn't overcook it, but also he did a slow first sector. Not when I say slow, it was underby. It wasn't a purple sector on his first sector, and then he just built on that. He looked very neat coming out of that turn 9 as well. So, yeah, impressive lap. I'm sure he'd be very happy with what he did there.
It's only practice, Karun Chandok, but it's a large margin between Leclerc and Verstappen.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's real. It's the middle sector that Verstappen's lost out actually to Leclerc and Sainz. The 0.3 deficit comes in the middle sector of the lap, so you know Red Bull will be looking at that.
Why are we not going crazy over Fernando Alonso? I mean,
yes, we should be going crazy over Fernando Alonso because we were concentrating on Charles Leclerc for a bit. Half a second down, Fernando Alonso, only a couple of tenths down on the Red Bull of Verstappen. New rear wing, amongst other things, for Alpine. Decent lap of a 1:20.2. He's come here before in a car that you wouldn't necessarily expect to get on pole, and he's done so. Fernando Alonso. George Russell now goes second fastest, a 10th down on Charles Leclerc. Now, we didn't see that lap at all. Meanwhile, Stroll and Tsunoda, no further investigation for impeding on that one. The stewards have had a look, and we continue to watch Mick Schumacher, who was 0.3 down through the first sector compared to Verstappen's purple first sector time, the best one that we've had so far. Schumacher gets to the end of the middle sector. He's lost another half a second or so and finds himself about 8.5 tenths down. But this is a Haas car, not bringing upgrades this weekend, but you would expect to be in the hunt for points, Damon, at some stage.
Well, with Kevin it is.
Yeah, but it needs to be with Mick as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, he does need to do a little bit of work, doesn't he? I'm sure he's having a little bit of think about things now. He's got Kevin as a teammate.
I tell you what, I've been watching on race control here on another screen, George Russell's on board, and there's no porpoising in that car. Same as Miami FP2, Crofty. Remember that session there where you saw on the quali sims, no bouncing and he was quickest. Again, no bouncing and they're right in the hunt. So
well,
can they keep it under control though?
Believe it or not, the last 2 FP2 sessions, George Russell has led.
Yeah, but Imola was mixed conditions, right? And Miami was real. That's what, you know, annoyed me, because I spent all weekend telling people Mercedes were back. And then it just disappeared on
so did they.
Saturday, and it looked ridiculous.
This is Mick Schumacher out on track at turn 3, not Alex Albon. And you can really see the cars that are able to lean through that corner. And turn 9-2, little lift from Alex and the entry. Oh, that's not porpoising, that's the rumble strips. And that's going to give you a headache if you do that too often.
Just take the floor because I ran quite wide in turn 9.
Understood.
Yeah, sadly, he did just that. Quite wide, quite a bit wide for Alex Albon, who finds himself down in 17th place at the moment and in the garage.
Turn 9.
Understood.
Alex Albon running wide, and you can see Lewis Hamilton out on the track. Now, his teammate George Russell has just gone to within a tenth, or just over a tenth of a second behind Charles Leclerc, second fastest for the man who's led FP2 in the last 2 race weekends. Karun was watching the on-board lap, said the porpoising had gone, and that it was a much better lap from George Russell. So let's focus in on Lewis Hamilton and see what we can see from a Mercedes team. As I said, right at the start of FP2, might have felt yesterday that they found a way to switch the porpoising on and off, which suggests they now understand it and understand where it's coming from.
So better first sector than either Ferrari there for Lewis Hamilton. We'll see the middle part of the lap. This is where the heart of the lap is. 29.6 was where we saw Leclerc. 29.8, that's still pretty good for Hamilton. That's going to get him right amongst that Sainz, Verstappen, Russell little battle here. If he can just put together the grip he needs for the final part of the lap. Into the left hand of the chicane, through the right, trying to put the power down. Yeah, pretty tight. He had a little bit of a wiggle just at the end of the chicane, but this should get him right into play.
And it does. 2/10 off for Lewis Hamilton, who's won the last 5 Spanish Grand Prix and has been on the front row here for the last 9 races at the Circuit de Catalunya. Not good enough for the front row if this was qualifying, but only a 10th behind his teammate and only 2/10 off Charles Leclerc. What of his former teammate, Valtteri Bottas? We saw him pull off to the side of the track. Ted Kravitz has more.
Engine problem, Crofty. So that's a Ferrari engine. He's on his second Ferrari engine of the season, so I wonder whether this is engine 1 that was in for practice that's given them a problem and stopped him by the side. So this was really going to be a race of redemption, coming back to a circuit which they suffered so badly in pre-season testing, Alfa Romeo Sauber, and they really hoped for better than this. But as it is, they've got another problem that meant that they have no race runs, or very fewer race runs that they wanted for Bottas, as he still thinks he's got the pace to be on the podium in one of these races, Crofty, but hasn't managed to get anything past in FP2. You can see him on the pit wall, just having to sit it out and see what Zhou Guanyu, his teammate, has to say about it. But you saw a shot of Lando Norris, I think, a second ago. There's an issue with his floor, and I think there's either been some damage or there's been something they need to fix on it. They're actually taking the floor away now. They're having to bag it up. I don't know if we have a camera down here that can show you, but we'll do that very soon. They're having to bag the floor up so that nobody can see the secrets of the floor underneath, and then they're going to take it away. So Lando's out of the car, and it looks like this is going to be a delay of at least 10 minutes for Lando Norris, which is again something he could have done without. And to repeat, that is the new floor for Lando Norris. That's the old spec McLaren for Daniel Ricciardo.
I spoke to Adrian Seidel before he came up here, and I think they were upgrading Daniel as well. So,
really?
Yeah, I think they may be on the same spec,
plan this morning,
unless I didn't understand him correctly.
Yeah, every time we touch the throttle, we're just sideways.
So traction issues there for Pierre Gasly. But there's something odd going on with Daniel as well, because we haven't seen him do a soft tyre run. He's only done 9 laps in this session. Lando, we saw run wide, didn't we, at turn 6. He dipped a wheel in the gravel, and turn 9. The high-speed corner, that's probably done the damage. But yeah, something all going on Daniel's side of the pits as well. 3.4 seconds off the pace, down in 18th, and not many laps on the board.
Which you would expect if he's just done a hard tyre run during the course of this session, as the AlphaTauri gets pushed back into the garage. And there's the view in the McLaren garage. As Ted was saying, the floor getting taken away. And they've got enough to run the new spec on both cars, McLaren. But the idea was, talking to James Key this morning, that we'll just keep Daniel the old, Lando the new, and then it just saves a bit on the parts just in case as well, and we can do some proper evaluation. See, it's not the work of a moment, is it, getting rid of a floor? And you've got to make sure it's all tightly wrapped up so no one can have a look at it.
Oh yeah, I mean, you cannot allow for any ill-fitting part of that floor. It is so sensitive to producing downforce of a Formula 1 car. It has to be, just perfectly mounted.
And there's the scene outside the Mercedes garage. Hamilton and Russell, third and second in that order, with Charles Leclerc fastest overall. So, Damon, are Mercedes back?
I think it's
Here's
too
the
early.
updates.
Yeah. What does it all mean? They're little curly things. Without tiny little adjustments to the floor, and that's that little extra bib that they've put in. Which is the ice skate thing?
There.
What do they talk about? That's the ice
This
skate
bit on the side.
Okay, all right.
See,
so that's
this is
the blade.
where we miss our doctor of aerodynamics, don't we? Simon Lazenby.
Simon Lazenby, Dr. Aero. It was fascinating this morning, even without Dr. Lazenby coming down the pit lane with us, to just have a wander and see the differences in the cars from the previous race. And look, Aston Martin we focused on, but there are little differences throughout it all. Haas not bringing stuff, but everyone else has got something new on it. And that Aston Martin concept, they say that they've been working on that back in the design office in tandem with what we'd seen for the first 5 races. Can you spot the difference, Damon?
Well, one's green and one's blue.
No, look, it is fairly similar, even with the light reflecting off the matte or paint or the shiny paint.
It's only the cooling louvers, aren't there? There's more cooling louvers across the top from that angle. That looks.
To be fair, the AlphaTauri is very similar as well, side pod wise.
To the Red Bull?
Yes.
Really?
No, not the floor.
No, maybe not the floor, but the side pod shape, the cutaway.
Yeah, but they've got the same power unit and the same cooling.
Yeah.
You know, they get supplied the same power unit, same cooling system, and the same gearbox, of course, from Red Bull. You see what I mean? So the rear packaging is from Red Bull Technologies, completely by the rules, by the way. Same owner. And
on the subject of cost cap, because we're now limited by the cost cap, there, teams being told how much they can spend. There are a few things outside of the cost cap that obviously cost a lot of money. Drivers, for instance, Damon, so you'd still be okay if you were competing in Formula 1 in 2022. But the limits are there, and at some stage in the season, that cost cap is going to very much limit what you can and can't bring to a track, because you need to make the money last. And
the guys with the money can get to the ceiling, but the guys without the money can't.
Yeah. But when do you think that ceiling's going to come? Like I said, I was having a chat with James Key today, and I said, when are you going to get to a stage this season where the cost cap will severely impact what you want to bring to a track in terms of, can you bring these sort of big upgrades, for the rest of the year? And he went, no, not at all. Probably by mid-July, we're going to have to start, every team, prioritising one thing over another. So probably not even halfway through the season, they're going to have to start prioritising.
And the teams that have had shunts have got bigger problems, haven't they? Think of the damage repair bills that some of the teams have had to face already.
Correct.
So some big crashes. Thinking of Mick Schumacher, Latifi's had a couple, hasn't he? Saudi and things.
That is going to be so interesting. If this is a closely fought championship, I mean, they're going to have spend their tokens, if you like, on development before, in advance of enough races to go that make it worthwhile having them. They can't do it at the last minute. It's no point. They'll need to get there before the end, and then it'll be a case of, if they have a hiccup and they have to overspend, they'll have a penalty of some sort.
I feel like we need someone from the FIA and Deloitte, who I believe are the auditing partners in this, to actually walk us through how they're policing the cost cap. Because I would love to understand how that's unfolding, right? Because there's plenty of cynics out there who say, if Ferrari are doing some development hidden in an FCA factory somewhere in Argentina, how is that being discovered on the books, for example, right? Or I'm picking Ferrari because they're on our screen right now.
No, I think it's a fine point. I think it's a very fine point indeed. Hold that thought for a moment. Let's head down to McLaren. Lando Norris this morning, Ted Kravitz, was suffering from a touch of hay fever, but that was the end of his problems for today.
How did you know he was suffering from a touch of hay fever? He had the red eye. He had the hay fever eyes.
I asked the question because his cheeks looked a little bit puffy in the press conference. I said, has he got a bit of hay fever? And they said, yes, he has.
Yes, he's suffering like all of us. He needs one of those.
Like me.
Have you got it, Kieran?
Oh, it's really bad.
Lots of pollen around. But to quote Lando Norris circa 2020, it's broken. He damaged the car going over the curbs, the team are telling us, and they're assessing that damage. But it's enough, unfortunately, to see him out of the rest of this session. They're currently taking the car to pieces, lots of pieces, and preparing it for free practice 2 and everything tomorrow. So we'll get some further details later on before we go on air exactly what is broken. But that's it for Norris in this session, it seems, unfortunately for Lando. But I do like this idea of Karun wanting to get a chartered accountant to come and talk to us about cost caps. Can we do it in the Japanese Grand Prix at about 3 a.m. when I wake up with jet lag and I need to go back to sleep? Karun, can we organise a Teams call for then? That would be really helpful, please.
Ted, I thought you'd be all over this, geeking over the numbers.
Oh, please,
with me.
can we have an accountant talking to us about financial stuff? That will be fascinating. Yeah.
Fine, I'll go to that with Crofty.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Ted just shudders every time the word accountant is mentioned. Anyway, we'll move on and go to turn 13, turn 12. Martin Brundle, come in.
Yeah, we are. I can see the exit of turn 11. The Red Bull and the Ferraris are better out there. It's a traction limited exit. It's a long left-hander. In fact, all the slower corners around this track are left-handers, and all the fast ones are right-handers, giving you quite an imbalance on this fundamentally clockwise circuit. There's no doubt about it. Releasing off 11, the Mercedes and the Aston Martin in particular are not as nailed down. They're not as confident in the back of the car. And the Red Bull and Ferraris can hold that tighter line, which then opens up the entry to this turn 12 that I'm standing on now. Remember, they changed the track here a couple of years ago to go back to more of an old layout. And when we first rolled out here in pre-qualifying in 1991, it's exactly the same then as it is today. It's a patience corner. Wait, and then squeeze the throttle pedal like it's got an egg underneath it. You don't want to brake. And you can hear some cars, they can pick the throttle up just a little bit earlier and a little bit harder as George Russell goes through there. So a really technical part, obviously the final sector, and he gets more and more tight then through to turn 16, the final corner. But the tyres are really getting tormented through here as the drivers try to build speed quickly. Then you brake hard, swing it into the apex as Verstappen. Let's see when he picks. Yeah, you can hear the bark of the exhaust. You can hear the engine revs rise. And the Red Bull is very good at releasing off turn 12. And it's a corner where you can get in a little bit too hot and get out wide. But as Lewis Hamilton comes through in the Mercedes, and yeah, really interesting. You can see so much. Yeah, the cars are not sliding all over the place or jumping up and down, but the nuances through here are spectacularly different, actually, between the various cars and drivers. And, of course, then which tyres they're running at any given point. Over and out, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. We'll see you back with us tomorrow. Qualifying and the race, of course, in the commentary box, and with Simon for FP3. We're watching Sergio Perez out on the track. Perez currently 7th fastest at a track that he's been to 11 times previously and has never finished on the podium at, but maybe things will change around for Sergio this time. Charles Leclerc has the quickest time from George Russell, and after him, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, and Max Verstappen, the top 5. Fernando Alonso, Sergio Perez, Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon, and Mick Schumacher, who managed the 10th fastest time of the session. Perez out on the track. This is race runs with just under 13 minutes to go.
So Perez on his race runs here, heading down towards turn 1. We're watching Adrian Newey on the Red Bull pit wall, the only other man apart from Simon Lazenby who can see air in this paddock, obviously.
There's a bit of surreal focusing around Adrian there. I wonder what was going to be revealed, and then suddenly his cranium was in full shot, which contains
brain,
all that knowledge. Yes. All that knowledge and that insight, and that he knows how to do it, and how many other people know as much as that?
Well, I mean, this is it. You know, you think of singers who have huge insurance policies for their voices. Would you? What insurance could you have for Adrian's brain? Could you imagine?
Well, he's currently priceless in Formula One terms. I mean, you know, how many world championships is he responsible for? It's not all him.
Maybe I'll ask the accountant that I'm going to come along. Whether that's in the budget cap, the insurance policy for Adrian's brain.
Just think if the Damned ever got back together again and released an album called Adrian Newey's Brain Insurance, no one would bat an eyelid, would they? That would be very much a Damned album. That one.
It probably like a song title that Martin referred to earlier, but like Tortured Tires or something like
Tortured Tires.
Tire Tormentors.
Tire Tormentors.
That'd kick off the album. Fernando Alonso, we were in the cockpit. Fernando Alonso, who got rather miffed with the stewarding in Miami. Got 2 penalties, 5-second penalties, took him out of the points. Had a chat with Mohammed bin Sulaiman, didn't he, earlier today in the paddock that I spotted. I'm sure the FIA president just reminding him, you know, that incompetence probably isn't the word to be using about FIA stewards. And I hope just a friendly reminder.
He was very strong, wasn't he, in the press conference earlier today? You know, with now 2 weeks on from the race, and he was still extremely unhappy about being penalised there.
So Alonso completes his latest lap of a 1:27.1. Who's in the 1:27s with him at the moment? Carlos Sainz. Damon, what are you pointing at?
No, I was just looking at the legend there, saying he's on soft. He's obviously on the medium tire, but that was as fast as time was on the soft. Yeah, so
in the 1:26s at the moment, Charles Leclerc and George Russell, 0.4 of a second difference on the previous laps. Ocon and Joe Guan Yu both in the 1:26s, as was Mick Schumacher, and Max Verstappen has just crossed the line.
Tires are going into pieces.
Oh, does this mean we're going to see a 2-stop race then?
Well, one would think so, despite these being the hardest compound tyres in the Pirelli range. Hope spring eternal.
So he's only done.
Charles Leclerc going wide into turn 9, struggling with grip. The tyres, he said, going to pieces, as is that bollard that he decided did not need to be standing upright. Karun, how long's he been on these tyres?
Only 8 laps, Crofty. So, you know, obviously, the Grand Prix is significantly longer than that. So it will be interesting to see. I mean, as you said, last year, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes bit the bullet, didn't they?
Hang on a minute.
Oh.
Car performance rankings, yeah, on the straights. Russell fastest, Hamilton second fastest. The car with more bounce than a fleet of trampolines for most of this season so far is now the best performing car on the straights. Now, I know they've both got a brand new power unit in for this weekend, but that is some turnaround.
It is. I mean, yes, I am slightly perplexed by that because it doesn't reflect in the speed traps, but yeah, I mean, clearly, you know, listen, they introduced a rear wing, didn't they, in Miami, which was a lower drag rear wing, and I think that gave them some good straight line performance. They've carried that on to this weekend in Barcelona. The car looks good. You know, the car looks competitive. That lap we saw from Lewis earlier, it looked like the first time he could place the car where he wanted. He could turn the wheel in the way that we're used to seeing Lewis Hamilton turn the wheel. That first initial aggressive input where the rear of the car sticks with him and he's got the confidence to attack corner entries. We haven't seen that this year. And
medium is faster than the soft, we believe, and the DEG is high.
DEG is high on both, or one, the soft, or just the medium, not quite sure, but I would imagine after about 8 or 9 laps, the medium should be the faster tyre, Damon.
Yeah, it's too aggressive a circuit. There's too much load, and it's hot, and I just think the soft tyre is probably going to be routed pretty quickly around here, medium tyre.
It's meant to get hotter tomorrow as well, isn't it?
I mean, the track will rubber in. They nearly always underestimate or overestimate tyre wear, and drivers generally can go longer on tyres in the race.
That time of a 1:19.2 in the test, very different conditions when they were testing here, and I know the cars are quite different now as well, but an awful lot cooler, which rather helps lap speed and lap time, so I'm not quite sure we want to be comparing that. But look, the track might rubber in over the weekend, will rubber in over the weekend, David, because it's not going to rain here, but it is going to get infinitely hotter, so hopefully one neutralises the other on that.
What is the track record for F1? It was Hamilton's pole or something?
Hamilton's pole here last year, a 1:18.1.
18.1, okay.
So I'm not sure we're going to get anywhere near that one.
Well, I don't know, 18.5, something like that for pole.
You think an 18.5 for pole?
Well, we already got 19.6 out there, so
okay.
And they're not showing.
I'm not going to argue with that at all. Karun has to leave us and is heading down to the sky pad for some analysis at the end of this session. While he does that, Ted Kravitz, where are you?
Talking of analysis, well, you know exactly where I am, because you have now a window outside your commentary box, and you can see, as you've been keeping tabs on me all session, that I'm outside the Mercedes garage. But
Absolutely.
when I was passing by the Alpine garage, Crofty, I had some interesting pointers on Fernando Alonso's weekend. We haven't mentioned him much, have we? But actually, that Alpine looks like it's working well here. Not one of the more overweight cars, not one of the ones who've been suffering from the porpoising or had their programs sort of thrown off by any issues. Yes, they've been unlucky. Yes, Alonso has had reliability problems in seemingly every race going, apart from one where he scored 2 points at the start of the season. But his race runs are looking very, very promising. And I would contend that maybe with the exception of Sebastian Vettel, and we don't quite know what's going on with Aston Martin so far on the race runs, Alpine are going to be right up there for best of the rest, for fourth fastest team, which bodes well for the crowd, who can't wait to start singing that Alonso repetitive for the rest of the weekend.
You'll be singing it with him.
I already have with Fernando, actually, yeah. This morning.
Now, you say you're outside the Mercedes garage. Well, you are now.
What do you mean?
Well, David and I were just wondering, were you inside the Mercedes garage or outside the Mercedes garage, or were you on the line? We need a bit of VAR on this one.
I think he's going to have his lap time deleted. I'm sure he had one for over.
Yeah, I'm sure he did have one for over.
You mean inside the Mercedes garage? Yeah, I was looking at Alonso's sector times, and for that you need to step into the garage. Is there a rule I'm not aware of, that I'm not allowed to step over the red line?
No, just a couple of pedants in the Spanish sun. Thank you very much.
We ought to correct a comment we made earlier about Mick Schumacher.
Go on then.
Well, he's now quicker than Magnussen has been for a while, actually. So
well, no, you just said quite rightly that he needs to start performing better and scoring points, and not just Kevin Magnussen score his points. And look, looking at Miami, he had a great chance to score points in Miami.
What happened there?
Well, I thought he rather got the entry into that corner wrong and collected Sebastian Vettel and cost himself.
Maybe he thought Seb was going to let him through or something.
Well, why would Seb do that? I know they're mates and everything, but
anyway, look.
Look, the question I would ask you is, now he's not in a rookie year, have you expected more from Mick Schumacher in the first 5 races this season? Or is this still part of his
compared to any
learning curve,
relative newcomer to F1?
He's got a better car, and he still hasn't scored points. Or are we putting too much pressure on him?
Here we are, on board. Let's have a look. Something is about to happen. I think he just clobbered the pole there. That's about it. He's probably practicing for Monaco. Look, here they are, getting as close as possible. That would be too close at Monaco. But you know, if you can nick a bit of time there, then it might be worth it.
Yeah, I thought that pole had been clobbered and got rid of, but it's obviously on a spring and comes back again.
It's a fairly resilient pole.
Charles Leclerc comes in for a bit of pit stop practice and out once more. The medium tyres off, and he's got the soft tyres on for the rest of this session. So Lando Norris only 6 laps, Valtteri Bottas only 3 laps. This being Barcelona. Yes, they've missed the opportunity to test their cars and to get a feel for how their cars are now, but they'll know the track inside out. Who else has had not the best of days? Daniel Ricciardo, only 19 laps down at McLaren. Is the only other one that hasn't done 20 laps or more. Tsunoda and Stroll, Kevin Magnussen might feel that they've got a bit more potential to come.
What are we watching? Is this recently, or is this just that was his quickest lap?
That was his quickest lap.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I wonder what you're pointing.
Yeah, no, I just thought was that he's suddenly going very quickly, but that was earlier. 1 minute 30 left, and there's virtually every car on the circuit except for Lando Norris, I think.
I think you're absolutely right on that one. We mentioned Fernando Alonso and a decent afternoon's work for him. His teammate Esteban Ocon might be half a second down on the 2-time world champion, but both Alpines into that top 10.
They're quietly getting on with it, aren't they? They are quietly getting.
Well, they're doing what the Enstone team do.
Yes. Yeah.
They get on with it and score points. I know they didn't in Miami, but this is Sergio Perez heading down to turn 7.
Missed the apex, going in too deep. I
whipped off.
That could have been the wind.
So that would have been a tailwind.
Yeah, it's definitely a tailwind. Downhill tailwind could have been that. Just that caught him out of it.
Only driver to have finished in the top 4 of the last 4 races, Sergio Perez, and that with a mechanical issue in Miami. Remember, he had a sensor that had failed that was rather limiting his progress towards the end of the race. I dare say without that he might have found himself on the podium. To be honest, he was compromised quite badly by 2 or 3 tenths of a second a lap.
He's proven to be a very good asset to the team. I think they can't have too many complaints about the job he's doing.
And I think they've started, preliminary talks as well about extending the relationship. I found out an amazing little bit of information. Sergio Perez and his fans in Mexico account for 35% of all online sales for Red Bull merchandise. One man, one country, 35%.
There's a lot of people. What's the population of Mexico? It's about 120 million or something. That's quite a lot of people, isn't it? Mexico.
If you think worldwide,
yeah.
35% comes from Mexico. That's a lot of caps. Although I'm told once, Fernando Alonso in his McLaren days here in Spain, how I find this information out, I surprise myself sometimes. I think they sold something like 60,000 Fernando Alonso caps in the year that he raced here for McLaren in 2007.
It's like LPs, isn't it? I mean, that was probably, that's quite a few quid in the old days.
Here's your platinum cap.
Yeah,
Fernando.
That's a good idea. We should have cap sales kind of awards. So who's going to win that?
Exactly. So a decent, even though he didn't end up fastest, as he had done the previous 2 FP2 sessions, for George Russell and for Lewis Hamilton, I think that's a very good day's work in the cockpit, where the porpoising just, well, it wasn't there. And if the data is accurate and they are the best performing cars on the straights, well, the engineers are going to be quite chuffed with that too.
They've got to be. They found something. Maybe this is it, guys. They maybe unlocked that potential they kept on talking about.
And all those people, Damon Hill, that thought Lewis Hamilton can't possibly extend his run of 5 consecutive wins at the Spanish Grand Prix.
What if? That would be a shocker, wouldn't it?
Wow. It would be quite the surprise.
It's still early days. It's only Friday.
It's only Friday. That is a very good title for an album. So Carlos Sainz 3 tenths down on his teammate Charles Leclerc, which is, if he was Nigel Mansell, would be round about what the home crowd are going to give him in terms of performance advantage tomorrow.
Yeah, he needs that. He needs that Nigel Mansell second, and he'll just be, well, he lapped everyone by the time he gets into the race.
But Leclerc looked dialed in. To me.
Yes, he did. He'd managed to hook up his car, and that's a 3/10 gap to what Carlos did. It is one of those gaps that, as a racing driver, gets you a little bit worried about sheer pace of your teammate. You can live with like 1/10, 2 tenths. When it gets to 3, you start to think, ooh, that's a big margin.
What amazes me here is that you've got one of the longest runs down to the first braking zone of the season, but yet it is a track where pole position and, more importantly, the front row have absolutely dominated 31 previous Spanish Grand Prix here in Barcelona. 28 have been won from the front row.
Unfortunately, this was one of the worst circuits for the grid basically being repeated during the race, and just and that's where it's going to be a big test now with these cars for this race, this track, to see whether they can actually improve the overtaking and ability to get close through a corner, because basically the whole place is just one long corner except for the straight.
Yeah, that's very true. But it's the sort of place that DRS was designed to help assist and give us better racing, and it has done that. I think we've had better Spanish Grand Prix in recent years. Damon, thank you very much.